What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Peanut Keith, man. I'm back with another reaction video. Damn, my shit dry. But as you can see by the title, we're gonna be reacting to this Drake situation. This came up a couple years ago. Now it's popping back up. They saying he had something to do with XXX murder. We about to find out the truth, what's going on, man. Cause it's not a coincidence. But with that being said, if you're new to the channel, man, welcome. If you're not new, welcome back. Without further ado, let's jump into it.
I ain't gonna lie, I made a video yesterday about Drake starting his Anita Max Win tour in February in Australia, and I thought that was gonna be the last time I had to cover Drake for a little while. But y'all, I was wrong, because I woke up this morning to the news that Drake has pretty much just been called out by XXX Tentacion's killer's lawyer over on the Law and Crime Network. Yeah, now y'all heard me right. Drake was pretty much just name dropped by the lawyer for the man who was convicted of killing XXX Tentacion. And this is coming at a very coincidental time, right? All week we've been talking about these petitions that Drake has filed to seek information that can help him file a lawsuit against his record label UMG, which is also Kendrick Lamar's record label. Now, I say this is coming at a coincidental time because we haven't heard nothing about this XXX Tentacion case in like a couple years now, right? It's been closed. People have been convicted. The trial is over, right? On April 6, 2023, all three people that were arrested and tried for this were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And then there's been no new updates in this case since, but then here we are, the week that Drake decides he wants to go at his record label's neck, boom, implicated in a murder scheme. I can't lie, that's pretty wild. I've been seeing a lot of people saying it.
That's why you don't fuck with labels. They always got some type of leverage over you, or like some type of blackmail. Shit might be over, Drake. I don't know.
Drake going to his label like this was going to be the biggest mistake of his career. That he was about to give Michael Jackson, they was about to give him that Prince treatment. And I kind of shrugged it off like, I don't know about it. Don't seem like too big of a deal. But man, coincidences, right? They can be strange. Now, for context, this theory that Drake may have somehow been involved in XXX Tentacion's murder isn't a new theory. In fact, I made a video about this years ago, right? And I put it up on YouTube, and UMG actually requested a takedown of that video, not because I used any copyrighted music or anything like that, just because they didn't like that topic being out there. Now, if I'm not mistaken, a copy of that video that I made does still exist. It exists over on Rumble, and you know what, I'll go ahead and I'll link to this in the description if you guys want to go watch the video. It was a 28-minute breakdown about all of the evidence that seemingly points to Drake being involved. All right, well, I did that video a couple years ago, breaking it all down, but nothing ever came of it, because when it was brought up in court, it was pretty much squashed on site. The judge really didn't want to hear none of it. They continued with trial, and like I said, the three people that were on trial for this were eventually convicted, sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, and that was the end of it, at least until this week, the week that Drake is taking shots at his label. Now, one of the guys that was convicted, his name was Dedrick Williams, and Dedrick and his attorney, Mauricio Padilla, just filed a petition for an appeal, and in that petition they point to Drake's alleged feud with the victim as proof that he could have been an alternate suspect in this case, a suspect that they weren't allowed to question, they weren't allowed to get a deposition.
So basically they trying to flip the shit on Drake to come home. What the fuck Drake look like sliding on somebody, bro? That's fucking Drake. Be for real.
From, and that the police in Florida refused to investigate. So I want to make clear here that they're not saying that Dedrick is innocent and he had nothing to do with it. His attorney is arguing that there was other people who could have been viewed as a suspect that the police failed to even look into. And when something like that happens, it could be argued that whoever was on trial, in this case Dedrick Williams and the other two guys, didn't get a fair trial because it wasn't investigated fully, if that makes sense to you guys. What that means is that the conviction of these guys could be looked at as a reversible decision, because like I said, it could be argued that there were other people that the police just refused to look into that could have proved there was more to the story, but we'll never know because they didn't allow it. It basically adds up to the exclusion of evidence that pointed the finger at somebody else. And it's kind of a big deal. So with that said, let's go ahead and get into this clip of Mauricio Padilla explaining why they have just name-dropped Drake in this petition for an appeal.
Well, I am not arguing it. I'm not his appellate attorney. I was the trial counsel, so I'm just referencing what Mr. Patanzo, which is his appellate attorney, has stated in the brief. There is so many errors that it takes a while to even break it down. One of the main errors in my opinion in the case, which I had to sit to argue and live it, was the fact that in December of 2020, I filed a witness list. The state's reaction to that was to file a motion saying, we want the court to strike all of his witnesses, that's not even something that's legal or that you could do. You have to itemize who you want stricken. You just can't shotgun approach and say, I want all of his defense witnesses stricken, but the state attorney did that. In a hearing that I had to defend, myself in that motion, the court didn't grant that, but the court instructed me to file a pleading, which was the nexus in my defense witnesses and what nexus they had to my theory of defense, which I argued was inappropriate because at the end of the day, you're ordering me to give the state a blueprint of what my defense is going to be. But I was ordered to do it, and I did it. When prior to Mr. Onfroy, which I'll refer to him as X for this interview because his stage name was Tentacion, which was the victim in this case. Prior to him being murdered, he had posted on Instagram, if anybody kills me, I'm snitching right now. It's champagne popping. I'm paraphrasing, but something to that effect, right? So imagine. The decedent said prior to his death, if anybody kills me, it's Champagne Poppy, which is Drake's Instagram name.
Hold on now, Drake.
Laid out in extreme detail all of my defense witnesses list, which included many rappers, because at the end of the day, the victim in this case was a rapper. He had feuds, ongoing public feuds with not only Drake, but a lot of rappers that are either signed to OVO or related to Drake in some way, including 600 Breezy, which is a Chicago-based rapper, and a rapper that's from Toronto by the name of, he goes by Top 5, which is Hassan Ali. And I had to lay that all out in detail. The court was fully aware of my theory of defense. Prior to that, I filed a motion to perpetuate the testimony of Livingston Allen, which goes by the name of DJ Academics, because DJ Academics was friends with X and had posted long YouTube, content regarding this beef. He actually posted YouTube saying that he was on the phone with X discussing the issue and the beef that he had with Drake. And specifically, X had either said or posted something about Drake's mom, and he had posted a picture of a Drake lookalike with semen on his face. And he wanted DJ Academics to post it on his own site, and he said, I'm not going to do that. And in that conversation, DJ Academics says that you better be careful because even though, and I'm paraphrasing again, even though he's not a gangster, you may be pushing him. As a reaction to that conversation, X goes and says that he takes it out off the post off of his website or off of IG, and he says that his Instagram was hacked. I laid that out in my motion to perpetuate the testimony, which a motion to perpetuate testimony is when you have a witness that is relevant to your defense and that lives beyond the jurisdictional limits of the court, and that you feel that you're not going to be able to bring them into court. So I'm basically asking the court to allow me to go to California or wherever I have to go, depose this individual, and now with his deposition, if he doesn't show up, I could use it in my defense or in my case in chief, right? So I did that, argued it to the court, and the court, in a reaction, basically said, I'm not going to grant your motion to perpetuate testimony, just take his depo. Let's just take it. So, okay, fine. I set a notice of hearing, went and served Drake in his castle in Beverly Hills. The judge enters a rule of show cause, basically saying a purge date. You have to appear for depo on this day, or I'm going to do a writ of bodily attachment. He then goes and hires Brad Cohen, a friend of the show, friend of mine as well, an excellent attorney. And Brad files several motions, motion to quash the subpoena, and he files a motion for protective order. We go back and forth, and the judge says, and the first time that Brad shows up to court, he says, you know what, I'm gonna quash the rule of show cause. He's hired counsel. You guys can communicate and figure out when this step was gonna happen. Okay? So we go back and forth, we can't agree to it for various reasons, and I'm not gonna get into settlement negotiations on the show, but we can't agree. We go into court February 24th, I believe, on his motions. At that time, James Beard, which is the process server that served Drake, appeared as a witness.
But if the case over, how the fuck is they still bringing it up? It's a closed case. Them niggas got sentenced to life. Fuck you gotta do with Drake now? That's that label. They out to get him. I'm telling you.
And I wanted to show video that he took of the actual attempted service where it shows Drake's bodyguards or the people that are in front of his house refusing to cooperate. It showed one of Drake's employees kicking the subpoena down the road that leads to his mansion. And the judge didn't allow me to show that. Despite not allowing me to put forth that evidence, the judge did a 180 from telling me to figure it out, coordinate it, take the depo, did a 180, told me, why are you involving him? Granted the motion for protective order, granted the motion to quash my subpoena, allowed Mr. Cohen to argue California law without having a California expert there, and basically kind of chastised me about why are you bringing them into it? But the state attorney, sensing there's blood in the water, says, Judge, I'm going to renew my motion to strike all his witnesses, okay? Or tennis, no notice. And he says, I'm not going to do that, but I am going to strike Mr. Graham. So he struck in the middle of the trial. He struck Drake from my witness list, which is completely inappropriate, considering the history of the case.
Yeah, so as you heard in that clip, he's not arguing that his client was innocent. He's arguing that he wasn't given a fair trial because there was other suspects that weren't investigated. He specifically name drops Drake, 600 Breezy, and Top 5, which is, Drake's shooter from Toronto. That's how he's described himself in the past. I ain't just putting that jacket on him. He said that's what he is. Honestly, it's pretty crazy. Now, from here, what happens is that petition for appeal will be reviewed, and then there will be a responsive brief that is filed in response to this. And if the appellate court agrees that Drake, 600 Breezy, Top 5, they should have been investigated more, then a new trial for Dedrick Williams could be on the table. And in that new trial, I'm assuming if it's granted, we more than likely will have to hear from either one Drake or two Drake's attorney.
Imagine a nigga Drake get locked up for a fucking body, bro. That'd be the most irrelevant, unexpected thing of 2024, bro.
If that's approved. Now, as far as a timeline for that, I'm not really certain on when it could happen. It could be within the next couple of weeks. It might take it a couple months. We all know that the court system can be really slow, especially when it comes to appeals after you've been found guilty. Sometimes them things can take years to get through. So it might be a while before we hear a response to this petition. But, there was a lot of evidence. Like I said, I made a video about it years ago, but just a few examples. There was a guy here named Robert Allen who was on trial for the murder of XXX Tentacion. There was images online of Robert Allen throwing up gang signs. There were also images of Drake throwing up the exact same gang signs. Now keep in mind, Robert Allen and them, they're from Florida. Drake is from Canada, but there was more of a connection. Robert Allen's dad is notoriously known and has been convicted of being a drug dealer and a firearm dealer with ties to people in Toronto, right? So there was that. There was a ton of lyrics that Drake had dropped. I'm not gonna go through them all right now because it would take forever for me to get through them. But there was a lot of things that seemingly connected Drake to this entire incident that was just overlooked because the judge felt like Drake was too big of a superstar to be involved in it. Like the lawyer said, he struck down Drake and only Drake from his witness list. Everybody else was allowed to come in, give testimony, yada, 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 but not Drake. That was shot down almost immediately, which, I mean, to be fair, nobody is saying that them guys that were convicted are innocent, but the lawyer might be on to something when he says that it's not a fair trial if you're not allowed to introduce all of the information, and there was clearly more information. But yeah, bro, that's what we got. This is not how I expected this week to develop. After Drake sued UMG, all of a sudden, boom, he's being implicated in the murder of X. Crazy stuff. But yeah, bro, y'all gotta let me know what y'all think about it in the comments down below. Anyways,
that's the end of the video, man. If you made it this far, leave a like, comment, subscribe, man. Welcome to the family. But with that being said, me personally, I don't think Drake killed him or had nothing to do with it. But you never know. He was throwing little hints and songs and shit like that, and they supposedly had some type beef I gotta look into. Or even if he had something to do with it, I don't think he would personally do this shit, bro. It's fucking Drake. Niggas gonna spot him, bro. Nigga down, he like 6 foot something. Nigga, no, that's Drake shooting this nigga. But I don't think Drake had nothing to do with this shit, man. Y'all let me know how y'all feel about this in the comments. Y'all think he has something to do with this, or y'all think they fishing? I feel like boy fishing the killer because he trying to come home because he got sentenced to life. Should I be doing the same thing, honestly? But let me know how y'all feel about this in the comments, man. That being said, road to 1K. Peace.